When I was 9, my family moved into a small weathered house at the edge of a sprawling forest. My parents loved its rustic charm with its crooked beams and wide windows, but to me, the place felt off. Maybe it was the way the shadows pooled in the corners, even in broad daylight, or how the trees outside seemed to press too close, their branches scraping the house like they wanted to get in. It started with the doll. I found it sitting in the corner of my bedroom the first night we moved in. It was old, with a faded blue dress, yellowed lace, and glass eyes that seemed too bright for something so dusty. I didn't own any dolls, and when I asked my parents, they shrugged it off. "The previous owners must have left it," Dad said. "Just put it in the attic." But I didn't. Something about it made me uneasy, sure, but I didn't dare touch it. I left it in the corner, where it seemed to watch me as I slept. The doll started moving. At first it was subtle. One morning it was tilted slightly to the left. Another day it was on the opposite side of the room, sitting upright on my desk. My parents didn't believe me when I told them. "It's just your imagination," Mum said. "Maybe you moved it and forgot." I hadn't. One night I woke up to a sound, a faint tapping, like fingernails drumming against wood. My room was pitch black, but the noise was unmistakable. It was coming from the corner. I squeezed my eyes shut and pulled the blankets over my head, praying it would stop. It didn't. The next morning, the doll was sitting on my bed, its head tilted toward me. Its glass eyes were cracked now, a web of fractures spreading across one cheek. A faint smile stretched across its painted lips, wider than before. That's when the whispers started. At first, they came at night, faint and indistinct, like a radio playing in another room. They grew louder over time, and soon I could hear them even during the day. They didn't make sense, garbled words in a language I didn't understand, but they always came from the corner where the dolls sat. I begged my parents to get rid of it, but they refused. "There's nothing wrong with the doll," Dad said, his voice sharper than usual. "You're too old to be scared of toys." The next night, I woke up again, but this time it wasn't the tapping that startled me. It was the weight. Something was pressing down on my chest, heavy and cold. I opened my eyes and saw the doll, its cracked face inches from mine. Its mouth was open now, wide enough to reveal jagged, needle-thin teeth. I screamed, and my parents came running, but the doll was back in the corner by the time they turned on the light. They didn't believe me. Was he? But Samuel did. He was my little brother, just 5 at the time, and he'd started having nightmares too. He said he heard the doll calling to him, telling him to come play. One night, I found him standing in the hallway, his eyes glassy, his small hands clutching the doll as he walked toward the attic. I grabbed him and pulled him back to bed, but I could feel the doll's cold gaze on me the whole time. The final straw came when Samuel disappeared. It was a stormy night and the power had gone out. I woke to the sound of his laughter, high-pitched and echoing through the house. I followed it to the attic, where the door was ajar. Inside, the room was pitch black, except for a single flickering candle. Samuel was standing in the center of the room, holding the doll. Around him were shadows, twisted, inhuman shapes that loomed and danced in the dim light. They whispered to him, their voices overlapping in a sickening harmony. "Play with us," they said. I screamed and ran to grab him, but as soon as I touched him, the candle went out. The room was plunged into darkness, and when the lights flickered back on, Samuel was gone. The doll lay on the floor, its glass eyes staring at me. We searched for him for weeks, but he was never found. That's it. It's been 10 years. The house still stands, abandoned now, its windows dark and empty. Sometimes people say they hear laughter coming from the attic, faint and distant, and if you look closely, you might see a doll sitting in the corner, its cracked face turned toward the window, smiling.